This is episode 25 of the Triple Cross Cinema podcast. I'm Wooper, and here's Mario.
Hi everyone, we're here for the big one.
Yeah, it is the big one, especially since there's been like an 8-month lead up to it. The
Hmm.
last episode we did was like maybe right at the end of 2023 or right at the start of 2024, something like that. We put this project, this channel on hold for a while, but you can't go a full year without a, top 10 films of the year episode. So that's what we're here for.
Yep. 8 months late into the year, but here we go.
Yeah, you kind of have to wait that long if you're not a festival goer, and I know between the two of us, you are a
Well,
festival goer, but I'm certainly not. I'm like a bedroom movie enthusiast, so you have to wait until everything's out digitally. And
yep.
there were actually a couple films from 2023 that I wanted to watch. I watched about 50 films to prepare, for this episode,
Hmm.
and so I made my list based on movies that were really well received at award ceremonies and among users on movie databases and all that. But there were a couple films on that list that I couldn't see. One of them was Sing Sing, and one was Tatami.
Hmm.
Those are, despite having been received their world premiere, I guess, in 2023, they're still not out online,
Yep.
streaming digitally, whatever. So that's unfortunate, but saw plenty of other good movies from this year.
Yep. True. Um, I heard about Sing Sing, and I heard that it been released like widely open this year. So I think it would be fair that we can leave Sing Sing into the 2024 years if we still do that this time next year.
Yeah, I mean there are probably other films that we're about to discuss that also got a wider release in 2024
True.
um, after having premiered at a festival in 2023. But I don't know, their distributors were just a little bit quicker to get them out on
Yep.
Blu-ray, or a streamer picked them up
Yep.
a little bit faster, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
How about the films that you watched for this for this podcast, for this top 10
So
extravaganza? You happy
y-
with everything that you've seen? Anything you've rewatched?
I happy with the list, the top 10 that I have. Yes. Many of them are from the Cannes Film Festival that I watched last year. But it I think it more of a testament that the season last year was one of like the better ones. So like many of these films stick out even after like more than a year now, 15 months into it now.
Yeah.
So I watched a few more. I think about like 10, 15 more movies in lead up to this, and I happy to add a few more into this list. So yep, overall I'm happy with the list.
Okay. So are there going to be like, is your list going to be mostly films from Cannes?
I would say like about
Half?
half or a bit more than half.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to make it easy to predict. Not that I'm making any predictions. We also have our anime
Yeah,
podcast that we do on the side, or I guess
yep,
this podcast
yep,
we do on the side. The anime one is the quote unquote real one, and we
yep.
try to predict each other's top 10 lists at the end of the year.
Mhm.
For movies, I just don't know nearly enough to try to figure that out.
Yep.
But I do want to bring up that last year when we did our top 10 films of 2023, we had four films overlapping, and those were Tar, After Sun, Decision to Leave, and Layla's Brothers. And
Hmm.
having four films overlapping in two people's top tens is quite a lot. So I'm
I
not
agree.
expecting we're going to hit that same number this time, but I
And
guess we'll find out.
yep, and even that we have the same top one.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's gonna happen this time though.
Oh, you don't? What
I
makes you
don't
say
think so.
that?
Uh, I just think that we have you and I have sampled a lot of movies compared to last year as well, and there doesn't seem to be a consensus amongst like the best one. So I would say that we would pick different options this time.
It's just a feeling.
Just a feeling, just a hunt.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll find out as soon as we start
Yep.
counting down the lists. But before we do that, we have some honorable mentions.
Yep. Yep.
Do
I
you want
have
to kick
some.
those off?
All right. I have two honorable mentions for this 2023 years. And one of them is the one that was originally on my top 10 until I saw another movie and kick it out. Sadly, I still want to include it in my top 10. And that is an animated film,
Okay.
Robot Dreams.
Robot Dreams. Oh yes, I've
Yep,
seen. I think I've seen the poster for this.
right. It very simple. It uh wordless, so it doesn't have any kind of dialogue, but it very poignant about the studies of loneliness and the fragility of emotional connections, and even like the ability to move on from the relationship. So the animation and the framing device is on very on point. I think because the director is a live action directors who try to do something new with the animation, so it has like some kind of like like very cinematic to it, and it the portrayal of the New York in the 80s. They have so much personality in that. It's just a film that like I very wholeheartedly feel for the films.
So new. It's set in the 1980s in New York.
Yep, yep. So still have the Twin Tower and all the graffitis on that time.
Right. Cool. I'm
Mm,
assuming it's like some sort of alternate history where technology advanced more rapidly.
yep, yep,
And it's
yep.
not just
True.
one robot who's the central character and there are no other robots. It's like a society where robots are
Yep,
commonplace.
yep. It is a society where robot is a commonplace and where the main character is a dog, and his
Okay.
name is
Yes, I'm remembering
Dog.
there's like a robot and a dog
Yep,
on the poster and they're supposed to be like best friends or something.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Give it a
Interesting.
watch. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't pick this to watch. It's up my alley for sure.
Yep.
It kind of reminds the just even the title of it as well as the
Hmm.
premise
Yep.
reminds me of Dreaming Machine,
Oh,
the
ribbon
Satoshi
machines.
Kon film that went unfinished due to his death.
Yep. Hmm.
Because that film was also supposed to be about I think a trio of robots.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Sad
that's a film I want to
reality.
watch. There's a like a Satoshi Kon documentary that came out maybe in 2022.
Yep. Satoshi Kon, the illusionist.
The Illusionist, is that it?
Yep. Hmm.
Okay, yeah. I ought to check that out. See if there are any details about Dreaming Machine or just the
Yep.
man himself in the film that might be interesting.
All right. What's your honorable mention, or you want me uh to list the second one as well?
I'll just give a quick shout out, not to a film, but if I have an honorable mention, it belongs to an actor, and that would
Hmm.
be Naima Sentiés, who
Hmm.
is a young child actor who starred in the film Totem.
All right. Yep. Hmm.
So this was a Spanish language film, and I watched. It was the second to last film that I watched
Hmm.
in preparation for this podcast, and even the film kind of wore on me a little bit.
Hmm.
I can't say it was one of my favorites of the year, but I really thought that Senties, who plays Sol, um, I guess she's I don't know how old the actress is, but she's supposed to play like a girl who's like eight or so.
Yep. Yep.
I thought her performance was gripping
Hmm.
because she plays a girl whose father has cancer and who will shortly pass away, and the
Hmm.
way that she you can see her processing uh, his impending death and the fact that she doesn't have access to her father whenever she wants because he only wants to see her when he's presentable.
Hmm.
But then when they do finally meet up, there's like so much love between the two of them, and when she's apart from him and has to deal with her extended family, there's a lot of stress that goes into that, especially between the adults, and the way she observes that and internalizes it and is affected by it is really remarkable. So even though, yeah, the like I said, the film wasn't one of my favorites, I thought she was incredible.
Yeah. I think on that film, the camera follow her most of the time, right? All the
No,
time.
I would say there's actually
Right.
a pretty good balance between when
Yeah.
she's on screen and when, like her aunts or her cousins or her father's friends are on screen. Because
Hmm.
in the second part of the film, if you were to split it into two parts, the second part is a party, a birthday
Hmm.
celebration for the father, which ends up being his last, his
Hmm.
last ever birthday, and most of the people at the party know it. So the lead up to that gives a lot of screen time to the adult characters,
Yeah.
but you still follow Soul, the character,
Hmm.
for a good amount of the time, and she really is the heart of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice one. All right. I go to my second honorable mentions, and that film is Inside the Yellow Cocoon Shell from Vietnam. So this is a film from a Vietnamese director, and I still think that's so. I have a bit of bias on because of that as well. But I still think that it is one of the most impressive debut in the recent years. There is a long unbroken take that go for over 10 minutes. I would say like 15 16 minutes of unbroken take, and there are many scenes that like just go on the visual strength alone. I think the inside the film is a main character who dripping. So he isn't sure about his life. He I think he's just questioning his life purpose, his fate, everything on that. So it feel on point that like most of the time you see him just like just walking from from one area to the others.
Yeah,
So I still think that the film is half an hour too long, even an hour too long. It feels very long, but
yeah. Isn't this
it's
film like 3 hours?
it's 3 hours.
This
Yep.
film is there's a gay relationship in it, right? Is this the film I'm thinking
Um,
of?
a gay relationship? No, it's not the one. It's not that one. It's the
Oh,
other.
okay.
Yep.
Is there like implied uh, gay
No,
romance or longing or anything like that, or am I just thinking of a totally different movie?
it's a different movie that I think I mentioned to you. That film is Vietnam, and this one
Yes.
is,
Okay.
yep, the other one. So this
Okay.
one is about a guy who is, I think, in mid 30s. Um, his mo his sister-in-law just uh just died because of the accidents. So he have to carry like the son of that of that of that sister-in-law, and he had to find his or blood brothers to return that son to him. So we see him from the city into like his hometown, and at the same time he tried into making sense of his old existence. So it's a film that like have a lot to say about the crisis, about like its existential crisis and all that. But yeah, I really appreciate like the craft that into the films. But I would love for it to be like cut and a bit like stricter
Okay.
into the movie because it just feel too long for me.
Yeah. Pretty much every 3 hour film I would like to be shorter.
Cut short. Yeah.
Three
Oh,
hours
I
is
agree.
just forever.
It's 3 hour, but it feels like 5 hour watching that movies. So even worse.
Yeah, I had some experiences like that as well. Preparing for this episode, trying to watch a bunch of stuff from 2023.
Hmm.
I don't think any of the films that I ended up putting on my list were super duper long, but maybe I'm
Hmm.
forgetting one. I don't know.
All right. All
Should
right.
we move on to the big
Top
event?
10. Yep. Let's do that. You want to go first, or you want me to go for my number 10?
Well, it depends on whether you want to have the last word. Whoever goes first, the other person will have the final say.
Huh. that interesting. All right, up to you then.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go first here. So you'll be the final. You'll have the
All right.
final word, the final number one.
Yep.
I'll start with my number 10, which is "Evil Does Not Exist"
Right.
by Ryusuke Hamaguchi.
Yep.
We previously watched one of Hamaguchi's films for this podcast. The localized title is Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, but I prefer Guzen to Sozo, which means chance and imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as for this film, I think "Evil Does Not Exist" is a literal translation of the title, and it's interesting. The title, the way that the film comments, I guess, on its own title,
Mm-hmm.
whether evil exists or not, because there are a whole bunch of parties who are in conflict with one another in this
Yep.
film. Most notably, the people who live in this like mountain village in Japan, and a glamping company who wants to establish. I didn't even know glamping was a thing, but apparently it means like glamorous camping,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to establish some campsite in this very tranquil, idyllic village. And of course, tension arises between the company that wants to move in to this area and the locals who prefer for their way of life not to be disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also plenty of like man versus nature conflict as well. That's what the film boils down to in the end when the main character's daughter goes missing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a big search for her, and the way that she meets her ultimate fate. I guess that's a spoiler, no matter how you
Mm-hmm.
phrase it. And the main character's response to it, like there's a question in your mind as a viewer as you're watching whether any of the misfortunes or the bad feelings that occur to people or between people in this movie are the result of you know evil in quotation
Mm-hmm.
marks, whether it's avoidable, those situations and those conflicts are avoidable, or whether we really are in conflict with each other and our world based on our human nature. Um, and there's a this film to me, it kind of feels like Hamaguchi is just addressing whatever topics were on his mind as he was writing the screenplay, like
Mm-hmm.
tourism and the 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 dangers or the I guess the oversights that are caused by like the pursuit of profit. For
Mm-hmm.
example, like placing a septic tank that's too small in an area that's not ideal just because it's going to save money. Um, and there's even a conversation between two of the glamping company's employees about like marriage and romance and dating apps and stuff that
Mm-hmm.
they have in a car as they're driving out to this village,
Mm-hmm.
which is the film kind of stepping away from itself and commenting on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed the fact that the film seemed to meander from subject to subject, just based on whatever Hamaguchi wanted to talk about. And I also really liked the slow pace of the movie and the shots of nature. The way that
Mm-hmm.
it opened with two characters taking like jugs of like empty jugs down to a creek and filling them
Mm-hmm.
up with like fresh water and then taking them back to a truck, just wordlessly
Mm-hmm.
and repeatedly. The way the film opened that way, and I was very intrigued by that. It kind of had a calming effect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a film that generates. It has a lot of stuff to say about different topics. It also generates a lot of questions in your mind as you watch, and it's very beautiful and very serene.
Mm-hmm.
That's my number 10.
All right. There are two things I just want to add for that films before I move to my number 10. First is that I think the film literally start at I think the 5 minutes of the tracking shot to the forest, like
Yes,
the upper forest,
yeah, with the
and
camera pointed up towards the
yep,
sky, and it
and
also
and
closes on a shot like that as well.
yeah, that's right. So yeah, just want to bring that up. And the second thing is I think what you say about it's focused on different plots. Uh, maybe have more thing to do with because it's originally intended as just a 30-minute short film,
Yeah, I
accompanied by
read
the
about that,
by the
and
score. Yeah,
he ended up expanding it because I don't know, he felt like it. He
yeah,
had more to say, and the film kind of felt like that.
yeah,
He just had more on his mind than would fit into a short film,
yeah.
so it got bigger.
That's interesting. And yeah, I think I read in one of his interview as well is that he got inspired by the score by whoever scored the films. So he actually went into the forest where the film take place and just wander around and kind of like get all the ideas from listening to the score and like go into the nature in the cold as well.
Huh.
uh, yeah, I think many of the idea for the film came from like that moment.
That's interesting
Yeah.
because some parts of the film are pretty artificial. They wouldn't necessarily be inspired by a trip through the woods, but
Mm,
then again, some of them are very natural.
mm,
So I guess it
mm.
was just a nice setting for him to clear his mind and allow thoughts to, enter
Yeah,
slowly on their own.
yeah, that's true. All right, my number 10 is Saltburn.
Okay. I have not seen
So
this.
all right, so Promising Young Woman is was one of my favorite film back in 2020. So I had a lot of expectation coming to it. Seeing that it's the same directors who Emerald Fennels who write and direct these films. So turned out that the film is a bit more mixed in its reception. So in my reception of it, um, for the ones who haven't watched the movie like yourself, it's about a Oxford undergrad who befriend with an aristocratic classmate and then get invited to spend a summertime with the family in their mansion. And the film is driven by lust, a lot of lust, envy, and the main character, his name is Oliver, set to parasite the mansion by gaining trust or dominance to each member of the family. So I love the particular the opening and ending track shots. It's not really the opening track shot. It happened in the middle of the film, but it's the opening. It's the track shot where the character introduced the mansions,
Okay.
and we got to see like he when he walked through the house, he just go like, this is the red room, this is like the dinner room, here's the green room, here is your room. And we see like how big the place is. And that is like the second part of the movie where like we the whole thing just set in that mansion. And at the ending track shot where Oliver's, it is a bit of spoiler, so I won't spoil that out to you. But we have the tracking shot just mirror to that tracking shot as well in the end, that I think really stick out for me.
I mean,
uh
if you want
yeah.
to spoil something, you can. I'm not the sort of person who's like afraid of spoilers. So you can say as
Mm,
much as you want or as little as you want.
all right, cool. uh Yep. So at the end, as the main character just walked through, like we see the tracking shot, and he appeared nuded as well, dance around the place as he owned the place. I think this is like a really good scenes, like the best scenes out of the whole movies. But by saying that, I still think that the ending doesn't quite stick. At it is deflect some of the film main premise. So like the for example, like Olivia attraction to Felix go like unnoticed at the end, and even like Olivia's vul- vulnera- vulnera- vulnerability.
Yep.
We see that prominently in the beginning, but not as much as the twist goes on. So um, yeah, it doesn't quite stick for me. But the whole movie, I never get bored watching it. So it's earned my number 10 spot for
Yeah.
2023.
A movie that's driven by lust and envy is it's going to be difficult to make that boring.
I agree. Yeah, there are some really really nice scenes in related to that. Very bold, very memorable. You should watch it.
Okay. Um, all right.
Right, what's
Starting
your number
off
nine?
with Evil Does Not Exist and Saltburn. We'll move on to my number 9, which is The Taste of Things,
Wow, right.
by another director whose film we have watched for this podcast before.
Yep.
Um, the director's name is, maybe I should let you pronounce it since he's Vietnamese.
All right. Chen and Hung.
Okay, I'll
Yep.
just let that. I'm not gonna attempt to repeat it back to you. The Scent of Green Papaya was the film of his that we watched, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So this one, another film that's about scents, I suppose. It's more about taste. Of course, it's in the title. Yeah, I just made that connection.
Hmm.
Two of our five like main senses are in the titles of both of those films, and this one it's taste, and that one it's scent.
Uh,
Um, so that's something that I guess he's concerned with, and interested in is the
mhm.
the depiction of people using those senses in a medium where you can't really. You're only using sight and hearing when you watch a
Mhm.
film, but he wants to go beyond that, I guess. And I would say with this film, he definitely succeeded
Mhm.
because the oh my god, the food in this movie was so delicious.
I
And
agree.
I'm
Right.
not a foodie. Like I eat fast food and like really plain grocery store food and stuff. But this movie made me, lick my lips and I just swallow my saliva all the time because my mouth was watering. And it kind of communicated the joy of gastronomy. I guess that would be the title of um, the main character's. That would be the main character's title is a gastronomer. I
Mhm.
don't know, somebody who's interested in like the science of cuisine. Um, of course, it's not just a feast for the senses. There's also a romantic element to it, which is wonderful. Um, so it's set in like the late 19th century, so late 1800s in France. Of course, if you want to make a movie about food, it's going to be a French film. And the main character, the gastronomer, has an assistant who he is also in love with, and who, over the course of the film, he convinces her to marry him. They have a romantic relationship from the start, but he woos her over the course of the movie. But it's the way it's handled is really really nice because it's clear by the end that he values her as for more than her womanhood. He values her for her ability to translate his ideas into reality through her cooking, um, and for her her wit and her patience and all of her other good qualities because she does have quite a lot of them. And that's part of why the romance between the two characters is so winning. I think is because both of them are wonderful.
Mhm.
The performances are good too, but really it's the visuals of this film I think that earned it a spot on my list. I remember a particular scene where after one of the main characters' deaths, uh, the the main character Dodin, I guess you say it, or Dudin,
Mhm.
Dudon. I don't know, man. It's French. I don't know exactly how to say it.
I
He
just say you did.
Yeah, he takes a trip to visit the home of a potential assistant for
Mhm.
himself, like
Mhm.
a student, I guess I should say, because he already has an assistant. He takes a trip to visit the home of a potential student, a young girl who wants to learn from him, and this is just after one of the primary characters has died, so he is in like really poor spirits and he's refusing to eat, he's refusing to see anybody. But as he's walking to this girl's house, he walks through like a field of white flowers, and I wish I knew what kind of flowers they were so I could say
Mhm.
like what they symbolize in like flower
Mhm.
language. Um, but that shot is just so excellent because they're the first glimpse of light that the film offers after like probably 10 minutes of all the every scene being like gray, dark, cut off from the light, heavy use of shadows. Um, and then all of a sudden, all these white flowers like burst onto the screen in the same way that the film, like kind of bursts, or the food rather, the same way that the food kind of bursts through the screen and makes you want to smell it and taste it. Um, so yeah, it was like I said, feast for the senses. Um, Nice use of light. Food was delicious. The romance was charming, and yeah, taste of things. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the only one thing that I want to add is that the actress the actors between the two main characters Pinoche Juliette Binoche and Pinoy Macimel they was real life former lovers themselves.
Yeah,
So I think that add to the romance, the on-screen romance that you see in these films.
yeah, I think that's probably the case. Usually, I don't know when I watch a film whether
Mhm.
the two lead actors were previously involved, and then I discover it afterwards, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I guess
It's
that
explicit. Yeah.
yeah that helps with the performance. Or
Like the way that the main character Dudin, he's look at her, it's just like it just herself, it just like the whole world, it's just her in his eyes. So that's so nice to see.
yeah, as an actor, I guess I mean you have memories of that person that you can draw on to emit that sort of aura, you know.
Yep. All right. Good choice for your number nine. Here's my number nine. It's another film that premieres in Cannes as well. It's La Chimera.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, you
as
know
our
what? I think
Yep.
is this the film that's the main character is like a mechanic or something?
Mechanic?
Yeah.
Not really. All right.
Am I crazy? Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
All right. No, I gonna explain you the plot. So
You might not
no
need to. I
worries.
think. Oh, yes, I have seen this. They're grave robbers.
Yep. The Great
Yes. Okay,
Robots.
I have seen this film.
That's the one. Yep. So this is I have watched all of the what this director filmologies. At least Grow Watcher. All right. Pardon the pronunciation. There's always a sort of like magical realism in which Tam has a way of playing tricks in all of her films, and this one is another great addition to her filmology. So it's tell a story about a group of the great robbers. They call themselves Tom Barrowly, so I think it's like Tom for Tom. And George O'Connor is appear as the Englishman who is wounded and adrift and looking to see his dead wife again. I just watched his another movies in challenges, and I think his is like one of the more exciting actors being around now. He just like the two roles are completely different, but like his charm, his charisma is all here. So have a look just for his performance alone. Uh, Also, just like an act of the great of a great robbings, this is the movie that concern about the connection with the past. So the main character's Arthur is continually drawn into the past and try his best to like to just see his wife again. Uh, and the film employs some of these other technique as well. So like we have the speed up footage. We have
Yeah, I
like
remember that.
yeah, and the film was screened in different aspect ratio as well. I think there was like two or three different time that it does that. So a little bit of different from the director herself. She ventured to more like adventurous filmmaking here, but it's still a very confident film from her. So yep, like Chimera number 9.
Okay. Yeah, I was interested. I
Mm-hmm.
was intrigued by this film. It didn't. It's not really a top 10 movie for me,
Mm. Yeah.
but yeah, it is kind of I would say there's like a blend of quirkiness to it,
Mm.
like a bit of a new wave feeling, but also at the same time, there's like a close examination of, like you said, the relationship to the past and also to the dead and to the other side,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is interesting. I like the scene when he's in the like a tomb towards the end, and there's a red string
Yeah.
uh, that comes down from above, and then he like grabs onto it as a way of like he's grabbing the red string as an attempt to connect to his wife.
Yeah. And the moment you see he see his wife is a moment that you know that he maybe passed away from the real life. He completely exists himself
Yeah, while
from the
while
real
he's
life.
underground,
Yeah.
I think that was the implication, was that he died right there.
Yeah. So yeah, a
Very
nice
is a
ending to me.
fascinating movie.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Next.
number eight for
Mm-hmm.
me is All of Us Strangers.
All right.
So this is the second year in a row where Paul Mescal has played a character who dances in a club
Yeah.
before dying
All right.
and leaving behind the person who loves him the most in the entire world. So I guess that's a genre now, and he's at the forefront of it. Um, so this is it's a love story and also like a sad navel gazing uh, sort of character study. Um, and there's of course the supernatural aspect, the ghostly aspect of it. One of the reasons the film works for me is that it's clear from the start that the ghost characters are ghosts. The movie doesn't try to like trick you or put a blindfold over your eyes or anything. It's pretty upfront about that. Um, for example, when one of the characters goes to his childhood home to visit the ghosts, it's raining and he gets totally soaked. But then in a
Mm-hmm.
later shot, you see that um, after his clothes have been dried at his childhood home, when he returns to his own apartment, his undershirt is still wet. And if he had really been to this place and had his clothes dried, they it wouldn't be, his shirt wouldn't be wet anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there are the film's not trying to trick you. I think it's more honest that way and more impactful, more upfront that way. Um, there are a lot of dissolve shots in this movie that bridge scenes, and at first they kind of stuck out to me in a bad way. But
Mm-hmm.
when I realized, what the film was doing, how it was speaking about the relationship between the living and the dead, and the memories that we carry of people who have left us behind, the dissolves started to make more sense. They started to become more and more fitting, I think, in to the point that when they were still being used at the very end of the film, it felt like, it all just felt like one continuous shot. Of course, that wasn't really the case, but the cuts became like invisible almost. The
Mm-hmm.
dissolves just grew more and more appropriate, stronger and stronger over time. Um, and they were especially useful in the club scene. I mentioned before that you see Paul Mescal dancing. There's a club scene where a character like loses his sense of self and his sense of time, and the way that scene is kind of woven into what comes before it and what comes after it works really well. Also, because he's experiencing not just a romance and a sense of longing for people who have passed on, but also like a crisis of on an individual level, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really, I like the way that the two characters are. Their performances are very understated, very quiet. The way they grow closer, slowly, hesitantly, is very real. And I also enjoyed the final zoom out shot with the power of love playing in the background. That was like the way that it zooms out so far that the characters become just a little speck, almost like a star, as though they've transcended. You know, they're no longer human. They're something ethereal, um, something cosmic. Is very it takes a while before that sense washes over you, but when it does, it provides a really effective conclusion to the movie.
Mhm.
That's all I got.
Nice. All right, I have little thing to add on this film. Even that I haven't watched it. It's
Oh,
one
you
of the
haven't seen
film that
this?
I
Okay.
yeah, it's one of the film I kicking myself not watching it actually.
Well,
Seeing
since
that
we both liked After Sun so much last year, I would say you should definitely watch this because it has
yeah,
some. Not only does it share an actor with After Sun, it also has the same. I would say like the same tone.
yeah, and even like I really like the director's previous movies. So if you like this one, you should check out some of his past movie as well. I watched 45 years about a couple who a couple of like old couples who just hear the news of one of his ex girlfriend who been missing for 40 years 45 years have like they found her body. And even like the one before that, Weekend, is like one of the essential queer romance that in for the last 15 years, so
Hmm.
check that out.
All right, good recommendations.
All right, no worries. Now, my number 10 is the a film that I think would be appear on your top 10 list later on, maybe at higher rank. So let's see on that. It is Monster by Koreeda.
Right.
So I know the year, I know the film by Koreeda. It's very prolific. Uh, I remember that he's appeared in one of our top 10 last year. And I think that Monster is his most ambitious movie since Shoplifters back in 2018. Uh, this film told the story to three different perspectives, and each time peel up its layers to an emotional truth that we come across and we then make sense of in the final act. The film attempts to demonstrate that the real monster more more like the fear of others that we create to protect ourselves from other issues, like the kids just try to frame the teacher because he afraid that uh he being out other would criticize him. But there's some way, but I just feel that there's some way a deep understanding to every characters in the movies, and the reason why they behave this way, even flaw as they are, we can see like the motivation behind that. And ultimately, even though I think the film at the end suggests that the two kids had passed away, I still think that ultimately the film offer us hope, not despair. So another, like great movie from Korea.
You thought that the kids, like
Passed away.
the movie
Yeah,
implied that they died, like
yeah,
that
I
they were
think so.
buried in the landslide in the train, and what came afterwards was
Just the
their souls
dreams.
being
Yeah,
set free, basically.
yeah. That's what I take.
Okay.
That what my take is. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I didn't see it that way,
Hmm.
but it makes sense now that you say it.
Yeah, it's open ending anyway. So
Yeah, that's true. Another film that ends where characters are running through the underbrush screaming.
yeah, true. Yep,
This is definitely not the only film that ends that way. Um,
I agreed.
yeah, we'll see whether I have more to say about this film later on my list. We will see.
Okay, okay. Go to number 7 then.
Okay, it's The Holdovers. by
The
Alexander Payne.
Holdovers. Yep.
I feel like this is a very Academy Award type of movie.
Mhm.
You know, it's very much geared at like 50-year-old Academy members. Um, but luckily for me, I like films that are aimed at 50-year-old men because I feel even though I'm only in my mid 30s, I feel old a lot of the time. So I enjoyed this movie. Maybe it's one of the more conventional picks, I guess, on my list.
Mhm.
Um, it's about a teacher. That's my profession as well. So that interested me right off the bat. Um, but of course, you have the perspective of not only the teacher, but also Angus, the 17-year-old kid, who's out a somewhat troubled child. And as the movie goes on, you learn that his teacher, Paul, played by Paul Giamatti, is also, is troubled in the same way. Like they have a lot of similarities from stemming back to his own childhood. He kind of sees himself in Angus, and that's not something that he typically allows himself to do. Is see himself in other people, much less his students. But they really bond quite effectively over the course of the film. It's called The Holdovers because it centers on him staying at the school the private school, like the really fancy, preppy private school where he teaches, with five holdovers, five boys who stay over in the dorms for whatever reason. Their parents can't pick them up because they're overseas, or I don't know, their house is being fumigated or whatever. And I was disappointed when, of those five boys, four of them left to go on a skiing trip, um, and only one stayed behind. Because I kind of wanted it to be a little miniature ensemble, but the way it worked out between Paul and Angus, allowing them, focusing in like a laser on just their relationship, was very, it took the film in a different direction. It was a very effective one. Of course, it's not just the two of them who are significant. There's also Mary, who's the cafeteria manager at the private school, and she's also, she's experienced a tragedy recently in her life. So it's really about the three of them growing closer and kind of leaning on each other because they're all suffering, some pain, whether it's public or private, that they don't typically share. But they're able to share with each other as they get closer. They go to a party, they go out to a restaurant, um, they sit around and watch TV because it is a private school and there are dorms. Mary has a dorm. She has a room to herself where she lives, and there's a scene where the three of them just sit on her couch and watch TV and like make comments back and forth to each other, and you learn a little bit about them. They learn a little bit about each other. Um, so it's a pretty simple movie, I would say. I mean, the script is good. It's solid, but there's not a lot that you can point to and say that it's like exciting or experimental. But I like the '70s feel of the movie. I like the soundtrack. And it has a really great insult as well. One of the greatest insults I've ever heard that Paul Giamatti's character dishes out to his boss towards the end of the film. An insult that is so vile that I can't repeat it here, but it's really awesome. It's like a punch the air kind of moment. Like he finally told off his shitty boss. So that was kind of a fun like punctuation note at the end of the film.
uh,
Bless you.
Sorry. Yep. Yep. Are you done with that?
Yeah.
Yep. I just want to comment on the performance of Paul Giamatti. He's sensational, and even like the performance of Devine Joy Randolph, who
Who
play
plays Mary?
Mary.
Yes.
she just phenomenal. Like like all the emotion that she have. Like while she grappling with the death of her son,
Yeah.
and it's still like burning through. And I would say that the whole overs the script writing is the most delightful. It's just like every single interactions, every dialogue, like it just so vibrant to the point. So I think it like you said, it might be the most comfort uh conventional movie, but like it's just a trip worth like getting on and watch all the times.
Yeah. It is very dialogue driven. Um,
Mhm.
I used to really love movies like that.
Yeah.
Now that I'm watching more films, I find I have less patience for films that are dialogue driven, and I'm
Mm.
more interested in watching films that are quieter and rely
Yeah.
more on the movement of the camera.
Yeah.
But I still do, as somebody who was before I went into teaching, I was originally interested in writing, and
Mm.
I still have an appreciation for that craft, and this film really scratched that itch for me.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Alexander Pace, he's really good at writing his script.
Well, he didn't
So,
actually write this film. That was David
oh,
Hemmingson.
really? Damn,
Yeah.
didn't know that. All right.
But I agree that a lot of Payne's films do seem to share that trait, is that they are, the scripts are strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably those are the sort of stories that he's drawn to directing.
Yeah, true. All right. To my number seven is the one that you listed before, the Taste of Things,
Okay.
or previous name is the Pot of Four. So just like the scent of the scent of the green paella, who is really Vietnamese. This is very French.
Yeah.
It and it essentially food porn.
Yep.
It the film said it's just the love for making extraordinary cuisine and make you hungry for more. I definitely feel hungry, and I definitely feel that I want more of this. Um, I just take a look at like its sequences 35-minute opening sequence. So it showcased the meticulous preparation for the dinners, and you see like all the like preparation or the food in the making, and the food itself and people who enjoy it. And I think that opening epilogues is like the taste a entree to say to like the whole meal. If you enjoy that, you will enjoy the whole movies, and I just love every minute of it.
Yeah.
uh Also, you also already comment on the romance between the two characters, and I just want to add that there's an air of like effortless intimacy between them. It's the sense of like the comfortable familiar that for a love that that have been deepened over decades. So they have like the mutual understanding of each other, and it just grow from there. uh, it's just a film that is very sensual in every sense. So yep, it's my number seven.
Yeah. Sensuality is definitely an important part of the film because the sex is implied at multiple points throughout the movie. You never see it.
Yeah.
Uh, but for example, I'm remembering now. There's a shot of
How much is
yes,
it?
of her butt, and then there's I wouldn't necessarily call it a match cut, but the shot that either immediately precedes or follows that one is a shot of a pear that has been skinned,
Yep, yep, yep,
and there's obviously a comparison between like her nude form and the shape of the pear.
yep. I can
And
help
when I
but to
saw
laugh
that,
on
I
that.
like giggled.
Yep, yep, yep.
It made me laugh. But then I thought about it, and I mean, even though my reaction was maybe not totally appropriate, it fits with the subject matter of the movie and the comparison between like the sensuality of human flesh and of eating.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of silly, but now that you mentioned sensuality, that came to mind. It's
Yeah.
definitely a film that's dedicated to that idea. If it's using shots like that.
True. And one more thing I want to add is that I think the character themselves is not it's fictional, so they're not real, but they based on a very popular novels from France. And so this character is and I think all the cuisine that make into the film is also fictional. I don't think they are real this, but you know, feel free to
Wow,
correct me on
that
this.
I'm impressed by that. That they had
Yeah,
to like invent new dishes for the movie, if that's true.
they invent that new dish for the novels. That's what
Oh, I see.
I take, and then they make the dish out of like the description from the novel.
Do you remember the ice cream dessert
Yep.
during
Oh,
that 35-minute prologue that you mentioned, where that like the ice cream is in the middle of it, and when you cut when you cut it into slices, it's like in the center of each slice.
yep.
Oh
Oh,
my God, I would love to eat that just one time, please God.
and it's funny that they have a dash to the Prince of Monaco, I think, and it's on the very day that I just went to Monaco just the day before, so I can't help but like giggle on that as well.
Huh? What a coincidence.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Yeah, the
all
Prince
right.
subplot is it gives the film a little bit of a through line, a little bit of intrigue, but it's definitely not the focus.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. One plot line that I don't really understand is the thing about like they doing with the garden. She tried to make a the wave or something just to make like the garden grow higher, and then she got sick. Is that like it's implied that she got sick based from that
No, because you see during that 35-minute opening sequence, you see her
already?
like
Yeah.
grow faint and
Yeah.
have to sit down. So I think it's implied that she has some sort of terminal illness.
Mm.
Um, I think that what you're talking about, where they planted those like copper rods or whatever in their garden,
Yeah.
I think the main function of those scenes in the film was to demonstrate that the potential student for Dudin, her name was
Uh-huh.
like Pauline or Paulette, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
It was to kind of demonstrate that even though she was a country girl, her parents were still like intelligent, that she came from a good family, because they were
I
using
see.
this technique that not even the gastronomers had heard of.
I see. Yep. That makes sense. Cinder gardener, and he's just the person who love to eat.
Well, he also, helps in the preparation of the food and the
Hmm.
like the conceptualizing of the dishes and all that.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right, our
Yep.
first shared film
Yep.
so far.
True.
Should we
All
move
right.
on to my number 6?
Yep. What's your number six?
It is Past Lives by
Right.
Celine Song.
Hmm.
Um, Most people who are listening to this have probably seen this movie by now. It was like a real letterboxed favorite, for example. So I don't know if I need to go too much into what it's about. You know, there's it's a romance, um,
Hmm.
and there are all, of course there are also questions about like how much of who you were as a child and your culture where you were born, how much of that stays with you as you grow older, whether it ever truly leaves you or whether it can, like if you become totally Americanized. I guess if it's possible to recapture your connection to your culture and to people who you knew um, from the place that you come from, because the film is a romance between what are their names, Nora and Haesung,
Hmm.
and they kind of danced around each other a little bit when they were kids, and then they had a Skype connection when they got a little older, but nothing ever materialized. Even though they both, I think, understood that they were in love with one another. But then, there are three time periods in the film. Time passes between each of them, and their relationship changes and kind of like almost evaporates between each of the time skips. Um, and it's the process of rekindling it and seeing whether that connection is strong enough to overcome the passage of time and the removal from one's own culture is what the film is primarily concerned with. So those are interesting questions, but I was mostly in it for the mood, um, and the whole idea of like reincarnation. Um,
Mhm.
if you're not able to connect with someone in your current life, perhaps you will in the future, or perhaps the the fact that you've met them in your present life means that in the past you had like a whirlwind romance. The romanticism of that idea had a hold on me as I was watching this movie, because it allows you, as somebody who's experiencing the film, it allows you to speculate about what sort of relationship the characters who you want to see get together may have in the future or may have had in the past. So even if it doesn't work out between the two of them, it kind of lets your imagination run wild. Um, feel it kind of feels limitless in that sense.
Mhm.
So even though it's just a 2 hour film, maybe only an hour and a half, I don't really remember. It feels like it could go for much longer. So that's a nice feeling. We were talking earlier about 3 hour movies feeling too long. This film is a film that kind of has the weight of a 3 hour film, I would say, without the runtime of one.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
of course, you know, there's the ending scene. Love the ending of this movie so much.
Mm.
Um, I I won't go into any detail about it. I guess I'll just say that it was had me tearing up. Um, a really fantastic ending that doesn't give you everything you want, but you kind of feel after you've finished the experience of watching the movie that it's given you what what it set out to give you and what you need. You know.
Mm.
Also, really like the soundtrack. Just want to shout out that it was composed by Daniel Rawson of Grizzly Bear, which is an indie band that I really like. So the
Mm.
acoustic guitar work in this. At first, I thought it was by Midair Thief, which is a Korean band, which would make sense because the two main
Mm.
characters are Korean. Um, but I found out when watching the credits afterwards, it was by Daniel Rawson, who I also knew. I knew his name by sight. So
Mm.
that was a treat.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, I love the ending as well. It's just like an unbroken take of, like see waving goodbye to him and then just, like just walk and it just tracking, like the way that she walked back to her house and that she just, like feeling crushing by
Yeah,
the emotions.
yeah. It's so
Uh
it's like the fact that her husband has to comfort her when she's so emotional over another guy is
yeah, yeah.
you you got to feel for
Yeah,
Arthur. You got to
yeah.
feel for the husband. But
I do feel that he's like an unsung heroes in these films. Like the film itself just doesn't give him enough credit.
yeah, well, I
Just
mean, I know what you mean, but it's not really about him, It's
yeah,
it's
just
about
true.
Nora
That's the
and
thing,
Hae Sung, but he definitely plays his part. Um
Yeah,
it's
that's the
interesting
thing.
cuz you kind of feel like he's,
He
you
feel
know,
that as well. He feel like he being left out,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
even like in the beginning of the films, you have like uh the talk from like an unseen uh two people who like who try to observe this gang and see the dynamic, who try to get the dynamic between them, and he's still the one who being left out.
Right. Yeah.
So So
Yeah, I
yeah,
wasn't
you
sure
got
what the purpose of that scene was when I started the film, but
yeah.
then after I'd finished it, I went back and watched that first scene again, and Arthur just can't catch a break, even when two strangers whose faces you don't even see are gossiping about him. It's just
Yeah.
he's taking
Oh
constant
man.
L's in this movie.
Yeah. Uh, give him more credit, man.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just feel bad for him,
yeah,
totally. But
me too. But I'm glad that he had this thankless role to play because it was part of a really great movie.
yeah, true. All right. My number six is I think something that you would expect it based on my list is City from
Yes,
Wes
I know you're a
Anderson.
big Wes Anderson fan.
Yeah, I'm a big Wes Anderson fan, and this one is, it filled with all the qualities and the visual quotes that you had known from Wes Anderson. It had like a huge set of characters. It divided into different acts. It just have a play within a play. It have like multi-framing devices, and it have the alien who appeared in the middle of the films. But all that it just say that it just business as usual for Wes Anderson films. Uh, so he regularly switch back and forth between the television story and the drama in the town, and gradually putting them into the meaningful dynamic and point and play with each other. So it's just the feeling that he presented the big new world, and we are shocked into it world, and it just uh I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I have seen this. This was my first ever Wes Anderson movie, believe it or
Oh,
not.
first ever. All right.
Yes.
Yep. Is it too
And
much for you?
I was not feeling it.
Yep. Well, I can see that.
uh, I'll tell you, rather than talking about any of the stuff I didn't like, I'll tell you the one scene that I really connected with. It was, I don't know whether it was the final scene or the penultimate scene, but it
Yep.
was the one where it kind of breaks the fourth wall. And what's
Oh,
his name?
yep.
Schwartzman? Jason Schwartzman?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Where his character like goes out onto a balcony or a fire escape or something and
Yep.
speaks with the actress playing his ex-wife.
Yep.
That
Yep.
I thought was that like made the film kind of feel like it came full circle a little bit because this whole time it was using the framing device of Bryan Cranston as the narrator,
Mhm.
talking about these characters as though they existed in, like a play or something. So when the film
Mhm.
finally got around to showing Schwartzman as an actor rather than the
Mhm.
character that he was playing within the film,
Yep.
like a little light bulb for me went on.
All
And
right.
it
Yeah.
seemed like the film was commenting on itself and commenting on theater and on cinema in a way
Mhm.
that the rest of the film really didn't do. So
Right.
I really did enjoy that scene a lot.
Right.
But a lot of the other stuff just kind of went over my head or
Yeah. All right.
wasn't really for me.
I just have one recommendation for you. It's just to watch it on the movies because
Oh, I'll
you will
surely
warm up
try
to
out
it.
more. Yeah, I won't dismiss a director of Anderson's stature after just one film.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It just, if you see one of his films, you see the rest of them. Uh, it just have like the very self-contained world that have like all these, all the bit of details that the more you watch, the more you can, get into these details. So it's a nice feeling to just, like get sucked into his world. So yeah, give him more try.
All right.
All right.
Okay. On to the top
Yeah,
half of
number
the
five.
list.
Yeah.
My number five is Smoke Sauna Sisterhood.
Huh.
So this
Good one.
is a documentary that was released at Sundance last year
Hmm. Hmm.
about smoke sauna, like the practice of going to a smoke sauna, and I guess I don't know, like preparing for one and maintaining one in where are they again? Estonia, I think.
Yeah,
Film is set
Estonia.
in Estonia, and I was really captivated by this movie. I'm not a big documentary fan. Certainly not opposed to the format, but in general, I prefer narrative fiction. But I really, really liked this film because uh, the during the saunas, and it wasn't just shots of characters talking in saunas. There were also moments where they stepped outside and went into like a frozen lake by cutting out a little rectangle of ice and kind of using the open space as a way to dip themselves into the freezing cold water after they'd just gone into the sauna. There was
Mhm.
that. There were also scenes where they would prepare um, like these kind of bouquets of like I don't know how to describe them really. Like these bouquets of wild grasses that they would use
Mhm.
to like cleanse each other in the
Right.
sauna,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and the
Yep. Yep. Yep.
process of like using their knives to cut all the stalks into like a manageable shape so they could hold it was
Mhm.
was really interesting to me. I just felt there was almost a religious quality about the way that the characters like gathered water and cut the stalks of those plants and like poured the water over the rocks and to create the smoke. That was really absorbing. Um,
Mhm.
and then, of course, there are all the conversations, which are the centerpiece of the film. The women are so they're nude while they're speaking. So the film is like kind of nakedly commenting on very very serious issues that many of which are unique to women or they disproportionately affect women. There are conversations about beauty standards, lesbianism, sexual uncertainty, maternal love, how to talk to your daughter about her private parts, like what words you use when your daughter's young, what term
Mhm.
you use for that. Like women will compare. One of them calls it fluffy, and when she mentions that, some of the other women laugh. Um, there are conversations about pregnancy, abortion, rape, stillbirth. Um,
Mhm.
it's all it like it's a glimpse into a world that I'm really not a part of. So I was
Mhm.
fascinated by that and a little bit in awe of that. It's also there are some moments where it's funny. Like there's a conversation about Tinder that a couple of the women have when they're in the sauna, and one of them through Tinder learns the term dick pic, but she thought that dick pic was the name of an app. She didn't know
Okay.
that it was that it was like a colloquial term for a man sending an image of his penis over the internet. Um, so the film is spiritual. It's also very very real in the topics that it broaches, and of course, got to mention the closing scene again because let's say a film is 90 minutes long. Of course, every minute, every one of those 90 minutes matters. But to come away from a film feeling good about it, you often want the closing scene to really nail it. And in this one,
Mhm.
it's like just uh, a spiritual like chant that all the women do in unison, like asking that the sauna cleanse them of any impurities and of the like the evils that the world has put on them. Uh, it's really like all the hairs on my body were just standing up on end as I witnessed that, and it was definitely a special film experience for me. I had never seen anything like it. Didn't know that this practice existed in some far off corner of the world. But I'm glad I got to learn a little bit about it here.
Very nice. Very good pick as well, Cooper. All right. I
What's your
have
number five?
not. All right. But my number five is a comedy, a rom-com, romance comedy.
Okay.
Uh, It's a Fallen Leaf by Cory
Fallen
Muskie.
Leaves?
Yeah, Fallen Leaf. Yep.
I can't remember whether I saw this.
All right. So it's must not be on the top 10 then. But I think you will remember it when maybe when I mention it.
Okay, you know
So
what? This is the film where I asked you earlier, is the guy a mechanic?
all right. This is the guy who is a mechanic. Yes.
So I'll tell you, I've seen the first 20 minutes of this movie,
All right.
and
And
that's
then
it.
that's all. Oh,
Unfortunately. Yeah, so tell me, you can tell me a little bit about it because I didn't get to see the whole thing.
all right. Have you seen the girl?
Yeah, I met the main female character. I
All
saw
right.
like a karaoke scene where the two of them
Yeah.
were in the same place.
All right. Yep. So, if you haven't seen any of Eric Korimaski film before, it just it's also like Wes Anderson. You see one film, you see all of his other films. So, it's his usual minimalist and deadpan style, and I love every minute of it. So it's also a film about two lonely souls that having a connection. So you get up to that part. Uh, it isn't quite contemporary in terms of its technology or production design because I swear I see some of the same room and setting design night in his film in the 90s. But the radio commentary is about the current, makes it clear that it's set in the present time. But by saying that, there is a timeless quality to it. So, like I just mentioned, the setting could be in at any era, and the romance is very simple and unassuming. But you get to connect to these the people and see how like how that spark. And the film managed to bring a dry humor to from the characters, but never poking fun at them. And at the end, you got to see them together. It's not a spoiler, and you feel that like they earn it. They earn each other, and they are really good for each other. So, like I have a lot of laugh out of this film. I have like a feel good feeling out of watching just like the two lonely people getting to know each other and get acquainted, and a really feel good film for me.
Okay. It's interesting that you would say it's a feel good film because the impression, and of course, having seen less than 30 minutes of this film, I really, don't know anything about it.
Mhm.
But the impression that I got from the little that I saw was that the film would be um, kind of like there would be drudgery to it. That it
Mm.
would,
Yeah.
it was about characters who were like down on their luck and might
Yeah.
find solace in one another, but ultimately it
Yeah.
wasn't, it would be like temporary, and the commentary that the film would offer would be like, well, everything kind of sucks here, but at least we have each other, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the film never downplay the harsh condition for the two characters. They going through a rough time themselves,
I remember she
and
loses
I
her job after she's like suspected of
see.
stealing or something.
Yeah, she lost two of her jobs.
Two of
So
them. Oh wow.
yeah, so there's gonna be one in within the film that she have and then she will lose. So yeah, so I think the film is sweet, but it not because of the director sugar coating uh the film. So like you can still see that they go into the rough times, and I think because of that you can still feel that it's still that based on the reality.
Yeah, I did get a sense that the film was kind of inspired by or from the same school as like it was from like the realist school, or what
Hmm.
what new wave, like an Italian
All right.
realism. Like there
Yeah.
was sort of an Italian realism feel to it. I
Yeah.
That's what I got from the little bit that I saw, at least.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's not afraid to show difficult living conditions and poverty and people grappling with those things while still trying to keep their shit together.
Yeah, and it's funny as heck. Like I don't know why you can pull out after 20 minutes, but like there was a lot of laugh when I watching
That
this
that
film.
I did not really connect with, even
Yeah,
though I saw
all
the
right,
film was going for humor. It just
all right.
didn't
Yep,
really get me there. Um, but it was on my radar coming into
yep,
this episode. I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised at the pick, but it sounds like you're familiar with the director's past work as well.
yep. I watched like 4 or 5 of his films already and
Hmm.
enjoy most of them. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We're on to number 4 now, so I'll do mine. It is
Mm-hmm.
Blue Giant
All
by
right.
Yuzuru Tachikawa. This is
Yep.
an anime film that is jazz themed, and I mean that's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
It's about guys, like three young guys, early 20s or even late teens, I guess. I think I not all of them are the same age, but they're all like young adults, and they form a jazz trio, and they try to make it in the world of jazz in Japan, which, as the film illustrates, is kind of a small world, and it's shrinking even now. So, the same people who will show up at your first ever performance are the ones who will follow you to, if you get big and start performing on larger and larger stages, because it's kind of like, if you're a jazz fan in Japan, you're like a hardcore jazz head.
Mm.
Um, and I got the sense that the people who made this film, so there were probably some hardcore jazz heads on staff, because the performances in this film are wild. Uh, the use of color and like warped perspectives, uh, just like they elevate their performances to crazy levels. It'll make you sweat just like watching and listening to them, because they're so groovy, they're so intense, they're so like breathtaking. Um, so those moments are great. Also, the story of how the three young jazz musicians grow closer, despite the fact that when they form this band, there there are like disagreements between the three of them. Um, of course, it's a coming of age film, so that as the three of them are growing older, they're also learning more about themselves, about each other, and that as they become better friends, they become better performers as well. Because in jazz, you got to back, the saxophonist when the saxophonist solos, you got to back him up as the pianist or as the percussionist, or as the stand-up bass player. Um, and then when it's somebody else's turn to solo, the other, you got to shift to perform like a bed of instrumentation for that person to solo over. So jazz is really give and take, and that's really well illustrated both in the performances and in the characterization. I will say not too much more about the film, because we have plans to discuss it on Double Cross Anime, our other podcast, in a couple
Mm-hmm.
months.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have to head over there when it gets to be what, like November or something,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we'll have more thoughts on it then. But just for now, I would say the performances are great, and there's also like a feel good camaraderie between the three central characters. So my number 4 movie, Blue
Yep.
Giant. Check it out.
The perf Yep. The perfect cross between double cross anime and triple cross cinema. Blue
That's
Giant.
right. That's the point of overlap.
All right. My number 4 is, I don't think comes up as a surprise for you guys, or for you, Wooper, is Anatomy of a Fall, the film that won the Palme d'Or last year.
Okay.
It just feels like a very well written mystery book. I think the best pleasure is just to let the courtroom drama plays out, and in the end, we are still no closer to find out, the quote unquote truth. So like the mystery itself is like life. It's messy, and the case lacks solid evidence. So the only credible witness it happened to be Ply as well. So like there is um no real result for the culprit out there. They have like many wonderful performances from Sandra Hüller and from Messi. So I recommend like there is a shot that we get to see from the point of view of Messi, the dog, as he's wander around the house, and there is another scene involving him, like having to acting of uh being poisonous,
Right.
and you see that his paw his leg doesn't moving, and it just like god damn it, how could he do that? It's just the best performance out of like uh any animal that I've seen in the movies.
Yeah, they need a new category at Cannes.
Oh,
Best
they
actor.
do.
They
They
have
have
they
they
have a
have
category for best animal actor.
they have the best category for pump for dog, pump dog, and
Oh,
Messi
Palm
won for that.
Dog. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I
Very
assumed that
specific.
that it went to Anatomy of a Fall.
Yes. And they have that category for I say 20 years now.
Interesting. I wonder if there's
So
ever been
yeah,
a director who made a movie with the express intent of winning that award.
I don't think so.
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. But I know a few movies that like that play um uh, a great attention to the dogs or to the animals, and yeah, they obviously won the awards. So
Yeah.
yep. But Anatomy of a Fall as my number four.
Right. So I did see this movie,
Yep.
and while I walked away from it impressed, I
Yep.
wasn't sure what I was supposed to take away exactly. I think the film kind of wore me down. Um,
Mm,
its
mm,
runtime was pretty long from what I remember, and you know, the as more and more details come out about the really antagonistic relationship between the central couple.
mm,
Um, at, just learning more and more about that, and like hearing recordings that were played for the jury in the courtroom, and her having less and less contact with her son, and their relationship also becoming more and more distant as he's assigned like a caretaker by the state and isn't
yep.
allowed to interact with her except in specific circumstances. Um, just all those bad feelings and all that separation kind of like
Would you know?
yeah, pretty
Yep.
much.
Mm,
Um, I mean, it's of course it's the film is very well made and also engaging, but it just didn't end up being a personal favorite of mine.
yep. Now fair enough.
All right,
All right.
so
Top three.
yeah, it's top three time, and my number three is "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret,"
Huh.
the adaptation of the classic kids novel.
Yep.
Um, I when I was talking earlier about Smoke Sauna Sisterhood, I mentioned that it was kind of a glimpse into a world that I am not a part of. This
Yep.
film was that for me as well, because I don't know anything about what it's like to be a teenage girl and have to navigate all the issues that come with that, be they um, biological or social or cultural. So this film was eye opening for me.
Mm,
In addition to just being simple, sweet, entertaining, having a nice message, of acceptance and finding friendship and um, uh, like avoiding being judgmental, just being open and being kind. I feel like the film emphasized a lot of those things over the course of its of its run, and I appreciated it for that. Um, I thought it was lovely in general.
Mm.
There were some fun scenes, like for example when Margaret, the central character, and one of her friends Janie go to a convenience store to buy pads because they've both you know started their menstruation, and they set the pads down on the conveyor belt at the checkout. There's a shot of the conveyor belt starting to move like agonizingly slowly, and the of course the clerk is a man, and so they're mortified by that. And the camera just tracks the pads as they like inch forward and inch forward, and they both look like so embarrassed. And eventually, the camera cuts away, and the two of them run out of the store, uh, and they burst out laughing, which it's just a wonderful moment because all the humorous tension of the previous scene is like punctured like a balloon,
Mm.
and the you just get the two characters having a great time laughing over their shared humiliation. Um, Also enjoyed Rachel McAdams as the mom.
Mhm.
She is really put upon. She has a lot on her plate. Her contribution, I think, is very valuable because this is mostly a film about and for teenage girls, but she provides a valuable adult perspective, and gives it, some generational appeal. You got mom daughter relationship represented in the movie, which is important. I think it's important for girls to have that relationship with their mother if she's in their life. Um, yeah, that's all. That's all I got. I
Yeah.
really really enjoyed this movie. I feel like I
Ano-
learned something from it as well.
yeah. Another unexpected but very good pick, Cooper. All right, for my top three, I would say that the my top three is a bit ahead above all the others because at one point I tried to figure out, like which show would be my number one, and these three names come up. Uh, so I did have a difficult time of, like making an order out of them. But here goes. My number three is the film that I think would be on your later list as well. So let's see if I was correct on that. Poor Things
Okay,
by Yorgos Lanthimos.
I have seen this movie.
All right. So Yorgos Lanthimos is right at home with his quirky sensation, and easily this is one of his most accessible film. They have all of his best quality. It's very weird and absurd. It's also a visual treat with gorgeous design and many unusual cinematography lenses. Emma Stone as Bella is fully committed to her roles. She's just the best I have seen in of all her performances. And I just like the way that the film shift from the male gaze point of view at first when Bella is like every man desire until she of can she form more of like she like hunger for knowledge and she form a more fully conscious mind and
Yeah,
she become more independent. And I also like Mike Ruffalo's role in this as well. He overplayed his part, but like he very very funny to watch.
yeah, he
And
was he was very funny in this movie.
yeah, I don't think the ending and that well. I think it actually a wrong it's come off on the wrong note for me. But like for everything that come before that, putting is like a real visual experience. And yeah, uh I'm just looking forward to what Yorgos Lanthimos doing next. We have one of his new movie coming out this year as well.
Yeah, Kinds of Kindness, is that right?
Kind of kindness, yeah.
Yeah,
Triptych. So like three different story within that film.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely an amazing looking movie.
Mm. Yeah.
The shots of the skies in all those uh, cotton candy colors, like really really
Yeah.
unnatural looking. I wonder what the reason for that choice was. Like, how is that supposed to feed into the
It
message of the movie or the atmosphere
I
of it?
I think it's supposed to be bizarre,
Well, it's definitely that.
and
Um,
for the unusual lenses, I think it's more like it's not from the point of view of human, maybe
hmm.
because Bella is not by any means a human, and
Well, I would say that she is, right?
uh,
Just an engineered, a freakishly engineered one.
yeah,
She's still a human being. She's got the brain of one and the body of one,
true, true,
but maybe not a connection between those two things. Not an
yeah,
ordinary connection.
mhm,
I wasn't exactly sure what the film was trying to say about like womanhood or femininity.
mhm,
Obviously, over the course of the film, she becomes a more fully formed person, as you mentioned,
mhm,
and uh, that's perhaps the idea is that that's what all women should strive to do, and what all people should strive to do is just become better, more informed, more curious versions of themselves. But and she claims her sexuality for herself and doesn't allow other people to impose things on it.
over,
Yeah,
yeah,
like she comes up with ideas about how to run the brothel where she works during the film's, I guess, second act, I would say,
yeah,
um, or third. I don't know. The film's broken up into chapters,
yeah,
and I think that may have been the third chapter actually. But I just, yeah, I mean, I liked this movie. It was a cool experience. My first ever Yorgos film, and I liked it. But actually, it did not. To spoil, it did not make my top 10 because we only have two places left. So
yeah,
you predicted what, that Monster would be there, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
Poor Things. So I will tell you, Poor Things is not in my top two.
All right,
We'll have to wait
yeah,
and see whether the other one
cool,
makes its way in there.
yeah, all right.
Definitely a respectable, top 10 pick though. It was a very very unique, enjoyable film.
Mhm. Enjoyable is not might not be the right word, but yep, I can say that I enjoy myself watching this. There's some moment that I feel like, but yeah, overall,
Yeah, I would like, just for how different it is and for what an experience it is. I think that's what makes it enjoyable.
yeah. And believe it or not, this is like one of his most normal film out of his whole filmology.
Yeah, when you said that it was accessible, I was like, huh?
Yep, 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 yep. Believe me when I say that. Yes.
All right, well, I'll have to go back and check out some of the less accessible ones.
All right.
Okay,
Yep.
number two.
Check out not sorry. Check out not tooth.
I'll put it on the list.
All right.
All right, for me, number two is
All right.
The Teacher's Lounge,
Oh wow.
another film about education. And this one I would say is a lot, far more direct in addressing education than The Holdovers, which I had,
Yep.
which I also had on the list. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I would characterize The Teacher's Lounge as a horror movie because this is every teacher's nightmare. What happens in
Mm-hmm.
this film? Your class escapes your control, and there's chaos, and the school newspaper does an expose on you as a teacher, and you haven't committed any grave moral offenses. You haven't done anything. But it's difficult to say that the main character doesn't do anything wrong, but it's she's certain. I want to say that she doesn't do anything wrong. I mean, I empathize with
Mm-hmm.
her. Um, Basically, this film is about how events can spiral out of control in the education system, and how the friction between members of faculty and staff can make things difficult for all parties involved, and how once promising students can um, kind of get lost in a world that isn't totally equipped to care for every single child as an individual. You
mm,
because it's you pack a whole bunch of kids into a room, and the teacher cannot be present in a one-to-one relationship with every single one of them at all times. So some kids slip through the cracks, and that can cause problems for the child, for their family, for the teacher, for the entire school. That's what this film is about, and it is extremely tense, stressful, and just nerve wracking. I mean, I was paralyzed while watching this movie. Um, I deal with an age group that's a lot younger than Carla, the main character of this film, does. But
mhm,
to her, what happened to her in this movie is my nightmare. Um,
mhm.
I don't know if it could happen to me because my students are younger and the issues that they have are not the same as you know the issues of like middle schoolers. But just the music, like the string heavy soundtrack, which over time goes from just like sharp, quick chords, to like long drawn out bow creaking across the strings of the violin with piano keys going like uh, making you feel like your sanity is kind of unraveling. Um, Music is very very effective at accompanying that stress, that stressful tone. Um, and just the sense that you get watching this film is that even though Carla is trying her best to do right by her students, and in fact does more for her students than her principal and her coworkers, it's still not enough. Like you can never do enough as a teacher, because the needs of all the many students in each of your classes far outweigh your individual needs as one adult. Um, so it's yeah, it's just a paralyzing movie, or at least it was for me. I could not look away, and but by the end, even though I was totally stressed out, I was amazed at how the film gripped me and kept my attention, and um, made me fear for both the adult and child characters on screen.
Hmm. After what you just said on the movie, I just think that teacher is the most underappreciated occupation.
It's definitely one of them,
Yeah,
but of course
true.
there are many others. Nurse and
Yeah.
like custodial staff, people who like keep buildings clean and keep toilets working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without them, we would all die. We
Uh,
would literally die of illness.
we have
So
another film about that, about the guy who cleaning up
that's
on the
true.
toilet, public toilet. Is
Yeah,
that
there
gonna
was a
be
film
on?
like that this year.
Right. Perfect days.
Yeah.
Uh, Another good pick for you, Wooper, and the one that I can see why you picked that based on what you just explained.
Have you seen it?
Uh, no, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But
I would recommend it. I don't know if you'll like it, but
mm,
it's yeah. I guess I would
yeah,
recommend it.
yeah. It had a lot of tension though, so I might approach that with caution.
Yeah. You have to be in the mood to like get upset basically.
Yeah, yeah. All right. My number two of 2023 is Evil Do Not Exist.
Okay.
So
Another
that
shared
another,
entry.
yep, that's correct. So I'm a big fan of Ryosuke Hamaguchi, and like Booper said, we have watched one of his movie for our podcast before. Uh, I I I just feel that the way the film construct the story is actually kind of special. Is that it start and spend the whole movie with a small village who is pit against the developers for the clamping projects in a nearby forest, and we get to see a proper interaction between this staff and Takumi, and we get to see the side of them as well. So I think the point of the movie is just to see, like by their usual interaction, is that they are just another normal person who like have their own worries and their own preference. So like the scene when the two staff talking in the car that you mentioned before, I think so for that purpose we get to see them more as a person, not as like these staff,
Right.
and we get to see their like a bit of the burnout and motivation for like coming to help Takumi and Takumi the main characters, and like the way that they try to like I think they actually the two staff go a bit beyond to try to insert themselves to help out the villager as well. So that to the aspect, so that when the final scene take place, it the more more shocking to see how the event unfold and to try to make sense of what Takumi had in mind when he did that. So I think there is like some good explanation for that, but I will get into that in this review. I also see that the film is very like methodically paced. There are long stretches of like people just cutting wood of
Yeah.
gazing over the forest. I think it's just a commentary of our relationship with the nature world, like you said, man versus nature, and that also come into effect to the ending as well. So I think the whole film is just like a long stretch to prepare for what happened in the final scene and what the final scene that we see. So another successful entry for Hamaguchi. It's definitely very different from what I seen from him before, but what he follow up nonetheless. Really enjoy this.
Right. Okay. So I have a question for you about this
Yep.
movie. Do
hmm
you think that the ending was literal, like that the events that we saw on screen actually happened?
I think it's were literal in a sense of what Takuchi did. Before that, we see Hana in front of the gutted deer, and I think that was imagination.
Okay. So you
Yeah,
you think that ev- but you do think that Hannah died, correct?
I think Hana died, and I
But it
think
happened but that happened before he actually arrived in the field.
yep.
Okay. See, I after of course when I was talking about this film earlier, I said it generated a lot of questions. That was one of the questions I had was like how to interpret the ending. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
typically do this, but for this film I did go online and I read a bunch of people's opinions, and I saw
Yep.
that a lot of people share your opinion, which is that even though Takumi certainly kills the glamping guy, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's
He's not dead,
as
by the way.
what?
He's not dead, by the way.
Who's
By
not
the
dead?
end of the film, the staff guy, the clapping guy.
You don't think he's dead?
I don't think he's dead because he's still like he appear unconscious, and then when as soon as Takumi bring Hannah uh to out of the wood, he wakes up again and he walk for a bit, and then
Then
he falling down.
he falls over dead.
I don't think he's died at that point of time, but
Then what would be the
it's
point of the scene where he gets up and then falls over? Why include that at all?
yep, mm, yep. Well, all right, but go on.
Well, I interpreted the ending completely literally, and I think that that contributes to the question, like the title "Evil Does Not Exist." The
Mm,
question of whether um,
He's actually
whether
truly
like
evil,
any
no?
of Takumi's resentment of the people who descended on this small mountain community,
Mm,
whether any of his resentment of them contributed to his decision to choke the guy out, or whether
yeah.
it was only a means of protecting his daughter. Because I viewed the ending completely literally. Like he was the reason that he put him in a chokehold
Mm,
like that was to
yeah.
stop him from alerting the deer to his daughter's presence.
I see. I see. I I take it more as a guilt that he have for neglecting Hannah, so that she have to walk by herself to the house, and that's the whole reason for this incident to happen.
Right. So because he feels guilty, he decides to choke a guy.
If you decide to choke a guy as like a defense mechanism. So I think there's like some mention about the gutted deer do not attack people unless it is gutted. Sorry,
Right.
and that is it is shot or
Gut
trying to
shot is the
protect
term. Yeah.
gut shot and or trying to protect
They're
their
young.
children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what makes me think that Hannah really was there alive in front of them, and that
Mhm.
because he choked out the glamping guy in order to try to protect his daughter.
Yeah, but after the choke, we see that there is no D anymore, and we see that she already lying there, you know. So yeah,
I don't think that's true. I think don't we see the deer?
we see the day before he choked the man, but we don't see it afterward. We see when we get back to the scene, we see Hannah already lie down with no deer, or I don't recall any of the mark they left at all.
Okay.
So that's one thing that we I can double check. You see.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's as clear cut as just being able to go back
True.
and watch the scene. You know, I think it was intentionally constructed
Yep.
for there to be some uh,
Debate.
interpretation on
Yep.
in
I
either
agree.
direction because there was plenty of debate on it on the internet when I looked. But
Yep.
yeah, I just wanted to get your take on it.
Yep. Yep. Ooh.
All right, we've both
It's
got the
it.
taste of things on our lists, and we both
Yep.
have evil does not exist on our lists.
Damn. Do we have another same number one?
Let's see.
Let's see. Let's find
My
out.
number one is
Yep.
Perfect Days.
All right.
As you mentioned, there was a film this year about a guy who cleans toilets and makes sure that they're
Yep.
operational and all that.
Yep.
This is that film, and I really loved it. Um,
Yep.
so this is the third film on my list by a director whose work we have previously covered for the podcast. We saw Wim Wenders' film, um,
The
Texas,
and
right?
the
Something Texas, Paris,
Paris,
Texas.
Texas. I don't think we watched that for that one. We watched at least
Alice in the Cities. That's right.
in the
Yeah, no,
series. Yep.
Paris, Texas is another film of his, but yes, we watched Alice in the Cities.
Yep.
Um, this film, uh, very different from that one.
Mm.
Its focus is squarely on an older man. I guess he's in his 50s or something.
Yep.
He's in he's in good shape and he looks young, but he is an older gentleman. And he lives a very simple life, not the sort of life that a lot of people would want to live at that age, but his contentment in his role at in kind of the like one of the bottom rungs of society, a lot of people might say, um, is remarkable. Like how much I don't know pride he takes in his job, or at least his determination to be diligent about it
Do
and
a
to
good
do it
job.
well
Yep.
is like inspiring. Um, and the performance of what is his name? Koji, I can't remember his last name. Yakusho. Koji Yakusho.
Yep.
Um, his performance as Hirayama is unbelievable. Like he perfectly sells the idea that someone could live a worthwhile life as a toilet cleaner, which is something not a lot of people would consider to be true, but he makes it happen. Of course, there's also that closing scene where all the all the different emotions wash over his face, which is like a summation of everything that's happened in the film thus far. Shortly before that final scene, he has an encounter with his sister, and that brings up a lot of memories for him about his upbringing and his family and his relationship to his father. Uh, it's hinted that they didn't have the best relationship, and perhaps even that his father was abusive. Um, and the like the way the film teases that, but doesn't tell you too much about it. It just provides it as like a little tiny slice of who Hirayama is, and lets it lie there without having to like poke at it or bring it to your attention over and over. Really, I really admire that restraint and how like in the moment this film feels. It's not too concerned with the past or the future. It's concerned with the present and that you live your life as well as you can from moment to moment, which is encapsulated in one of the conversations that Hirayama has with his niece Nico. She wants to know when they can go to the beach, and he says, "I can't remember. I can't remember what exactly. I think he says later. We'll go later." And she wants to know. Oh no, he says next time. It's next time. He says we'll go next time. She says when is that? His response is next time is next time. Now is now, and that becomes like a little catchphrase between the two of them and sort of a mantra for the film. That's the whole point, I think, is that whatever life throws at you, whether it's like a toilet that won't flush, or whether it's a coworker who steals your favorite cassette tape, or whether it's an encounter with your sister who you may not
And
have wanted to see because it brings up um, a lot of memories and emotions that you would rather stay buried. Um, you just
and even
face
sorry,
what's up.
and even like playing games with a stranger, like who you don't know.
Yeah, tic tac toe.
Yeah, just so nice. Just little
Yeah,
moments like that.
yeah. The film is really, it's just chock full of little delights like
Yeah.
that. Like his process of selecting what cassettes he wants to keep up above his, I don't know, like his sun shields maybe. There's some place up above the windshield
Mm.
in his van that he takes into the city when he goes to work, which has a
Yeah.
whole bunch of cassette tapes in it, which are like there's a lot of Western classic rock. The Velvet Underground, the Animals,
Mm-hmm.
Lou Reed, his
Mm-hmm.
song "Perfect Day." The film takes its title from that song, and it factors into the film at a couple points. Um, so I really liked the soundtrack. I also discovered Sachiko Kanenobu, who was a like a kind of a folk rock singer in Japan in the 70s.
All
I
right.
discovered her
Uh,
through the soundtrack to this movie, and I downloaded one
oh,
of her albums, which I've really been enjoying listening to.
nice,
Um,
nice.
it's just very pleasurable film to take in, um, and it also kind of acts as like a little travelogue around Shibuya in Tokyo. You get to see a lot of little corners of the city, some like a shrine where he goes to eat his lunch every day, and like a public playground where there's a homeless guy who wanders around, and people are, they may give him a side eye once in a while, but generally they're understanding uh, of his presence, and he's part of the city too. Um, just it's just a wonderful movie. Every minute there's something new for you to feel good about as you're watching. So it's my number one.
Yeah. And I would love more moment of like he meeting when he do the lunchtime, there was like always this girl, this office lady who
Yeah.
sit like just next to him, like in another chair. But yeah, would love to see like even like a conversation between them,
Yeah.
and yeah, and his encounter with like a whole lot of people, and he even the one who doesn't talk much.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's just perfect for the role, and I see him play in many of other roles, and this one is just like totally different, but like very on point, on spot.
Yeah.
So
All right. That's
really,
my number one.
okay.
How about
All
you?
right, let's see if I have the same number one as yours. All right, so my number one is also the one that come from Cannes, and it is zone of interest.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like evil did not exist, this one it also speak to the blur line between evil and normality. So and it's also like any of other Holocaust film that I have ever seen. So like for example, the first thing you see or hear is without any picture, but it's just the sound of the and the sound it's like creeps up on you and it's become like haunting Sasuke. So it is what and it speak into like the whole movie as well because it is what you hear, not what you see. That make the zone of interest more like a viscerally chilling. So you hear all of the horror, but what you see is like the seemingly normal life uh of of this family who like doing the normal thing, and even like the house, she mentioned that she is currently build up a dream house. So without we get to see the knowledge of that dream house is just next to the concentration camp, but we don't see much of that, or we just we see hints of that, and we hear a lot of that. So I think it speaks to the core that seep into the film lack of sentimentality, and maybe also the power of ignorance. I remember like there is the one scene where the girl also played by Sandra Hüller, Hedwig, she received a fur coat, and then she go to the pocket and she discover like the previous owner lipstick, and then she tried on and then she get it to herself. So it just it's normal in when we see it, but like looking at all the contact, it actually very horrendous.
Yeah,
And
there are a bunch of scenes where, German
yep,
people are uh, using
yep,
belongings of people who have been taken to
yep,
the concentration camps. Like
yep,
there's a scene early on in the film around the same time that she tries on the fur coat. In fact, I think it's the scene just before that where she puts a
yep,
bunch of like garments on a table
yep, for
and
people to pick.
yeah, she gathers like a bunch of the people who work at the house, like
Yep,
I don't know, maids or whatever, and
yep,
says, "Okay, everybody take one."
yep.
It's
And
yeah.
and even like the kids had the collection of and I think one kid had the collection of like good teeth that
Yeah,
must be
the
from
older brother.
yeah. So yeah, all of these and the ending he said were inspired by one of the documentary the act of killing that I seen like 10, 20, 15 years ago. It's about also the mass murder from Indonesia, and this guy who in authority now, they recount of this murder and they see that as like their victory, so they happy to recite that, and they're
Yeah,
happy to tell the experience of like killing other people. And then at the end of that film, one of the guy eventually broke down and like just vomit. So this is inspired, that scene inspired by that moment in the films, and I think it's really really appropriate. And it just packed the whole punch for me. And even we see like the modern day of the concentration camp of people cleaning up the house and preparing for the next visitor to come and witness all the horrors. So
Yep.
yes, it is chilling in the way that it's retrained up to show any of these horrors and make us invest and feel it by merely by the hints of what happened behind the scenes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So my number one pick.
Zone of interest.
Yep. What do you feel after you watch it? I know that you just watched it a few hours ago.
Yeah, very last film that I watched.
Yep.
I didn't really feel one way or another about it, honestly.
Mm, right.
Um,
No.
I feel as though the power that the film has comes from its context, from
Yep.
the knowledge of the viewer, the knowledge that the viewer brings with them to the film about World War II.
Yep. Mm,
I'm not
true.
I'm not sure that the film itself is so powerful.
Yep. Yep. I can see that.
That was just
Alrighty.
my also the dude the
Uh,
vomiting thing. I didn't understand at all because he makes a phone call to his wife after a
yep.
party that he's been to and gives her the news that there's an operation that's going to happen that's related to the concentration camps, which is going to share his last name, and he's so excited about that. And he didn't get a
Yep.
chance to enjoy the party because he was too busy thinking about how he would kill everyone in the hall with gas, and it would
Yep.
be really difficult because the ceiling was so high. So
Yep.
if he is so dyed in the wool evil that that's the sort of thing that consumes his mind, why the scene where he vomits? That would
Yeah. Well.
indicate that he has like a guilty conscience, like somewhere deep down his body is rebelling against the things that he's forced to
Yep.
do on a daily basis.
Yep. Yep.
But if
Yep.
he's
I
making a
think
phone
that's
call to his wife about how he's fantasizing about killing people with gas,
yeah.
I don't really get why he would retch like that in those scenes.
Yeah. Maybe he's not truly evil at all. Maybe he has some like a sip of humanity within him. I think that's it just you know perfectly capture the complex of you know
Is it really
of his
complex
guy.
though? I mean, the dude is a bastard straight up. There's no,
Yeah.
you know, he's raised his son to be the sort of person who looks at the golden teeth of dead concentration camp victims in his bunk at night with a flashlight. Like this, fuck this guy. You know, I
Yep.
don't care whether
Yep.
he vomits until he dies.
Yep. Well. That's our top tens for 2023 people.
Yep.
uh, we have a few overlaps. I think we have only two,
Yeah,
which
too.
are also my number two and seven actually. So yep, evil did not exist and the taste of things. But otherwise, I think we got like a good spread.
Yeah, a little bit more
You
diversity than last time.
yeah, you
Um,
in particular included one documentary and one animation.
yeah,
So
you
what
also had an animated film as an honorable mention. Definitely
as an
one that
honorable
I
mention?
should that I should check out. I think
Yeah,
Robot
it
Dreams.
yeah, it's been my number 10 for whatever long, and then I just realized that I have 10 more other films that I want to put more.
Yeah. All right.
So
Well, I mean, it's good to reevaluate like that. It's not good to
yep,
pick your 10 favorite films from a year and then never look at them again. You know.
yep, yep, true.
Um, I was gonna
So
say something else, but I forget what it was.
yeah,
So I think,
hopefully you guys who listen to the postcard, if you want some inspiration of what you want to watch next, just go through our list and pick the one that uh interests you the most.
oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, do that.
Yep,
Do what Mario just said. Check out a film or two. But I remember, yeah. So the Koreeda film, I wonder if
yep.
you were suspecting down to the
uh
very last moment that I was
True.
going to put Monster first.
I do. I did forbid. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I like his style, so I enjoyed the film. But the fact that it was broken up and told from three different points of view, uh,
yeah.
actually kind of took away from the film for me.
Right. It's
Uh,
what ended up for me actually.
right.
So, well,
Yeah.
to
Well,
each
that
their own.
that's the nice thing about cinema. It isn't math. Um,
It
Everybody
yeah,
will have a different opinion of the way that a film chooses to present itself. The way it's directed, written, shot.
and I do feel that Japan in particular had a very good year yet last year.
Oh, I
So
definitely agree. I have three
yeah,
Japanese films in my top 10.
that's true. And we haven't even mentioned the boy and the heron,
Right.
and the gorillas minus one, which
Oh, yeah.
also
So
won the Oscar.
that Godzilla minus one was another film that I saw a few minutes of and then dipped out.
I see.
I
Yeah.
watched like the first 15 minutes and I thought the acting was terrible.
Well, I do feel that all the gorillas movie that we ever encounter will be acting terrible. We have the
uh,
same issues.
well, it's the only Godzilla film that I've ever quote unquote seen. The only 15, 20 minutes of a Godzilla film that I've ever seen. So
Alright.
have to try another one out sometime. Maybe the Hideaki Anno one, Shin Gojira, from like 2016 or something.
Yeah. No, that's a good. All right.
We did it.
That's it for us, guys.
Yeah, and it didn't take us 3 hours this year. I feel like it was a very manageable 2 hours and 12 minutes.
I agree. I agree.
We
And
did
we
we
have a
did
lot to
good.
say. Yeah. All right. So until next time, guys.
Well, let's briefly mention like what is next time. What are our plans? Are we gonna
For this podcast.
bring Triple Cross Cinema back, or are we putting it on hold for another 6 months or a year? What do you have
Uh,
anything to say about that, or not sure yet?
I would say put it on hold for now. If we come up with any interesting topic, we will jump into it.
Okay,
Yeah, but I
sounds
don't
good.
see myself just yeah for now.
All right. Well, it may be another year until you hear from us, or it may be less. Either way, we'll see you next time.
All right. See you.
Bye.